Okay, people, I don't know what happened with my video, so this is the third time I'm trying to do this, and I'm always honest with my viewers. I'm going to be talking about 3 monsters today. Now, I don't have time to go into detail about everything else, so I'll do it at the end if I have time. I will be doing 3 monsters no matter what, so even if I have to do 2 videos. Now, something just happened with my computer where it doesn't like my computer, so it decides to screw me over and say try to reconnect. Oops. So I'm doing 2 different tabs. Oops, not again. So the first monster I'm going to talk about is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Now technically Frankenstein was the Okay, we don't need to hear Buffy. I think everyone knows who this is. Okay, there we go. That's better. Now, I will tell you any other information we have to do at the end, because I do not need to go through this all over. Frankenstein was actually the scientist, but not the monster. We don't know what his original name would have been, or if he was just the Frankenstein monster. Or in some cases, if you want to go young Frankenstein monster. Frankenstein was originally written by a woman named Mary Shelley, based off of a nightmare. Now, turns out, I found this out my senior year in high school, and I wish I knew how to do videos back then, because that would have been a nice thing to do for Halloween, or just for something. The original story was not called Frankenstein. It was called, the modern Prometheus, which it makes sense because Prometheus, I think was like a version of, as like a god or something like that. It's been a while since I've read up on my Greek mythology, so sue me, okay? Don't really sue me. Anyway, Frankenstein, it's told from the view of the actual scientist. Well, actually no, it has 3 different storytellers. The captain, who finds Victor Frankenstein, and then the monster as well. Now you won't be seeing me for most of this. I'm going to be just talking. So I might actually turn this down though. Frankenstein was published back in, now since I have to do this again, back in 1818. Actually, it was published on January, if Wikipedia is correct, which most of my info is going to come from, if not just from what I remember from when I was reading it a long time ago. January 1st. And then in 1823 in French. So that's a long time for most of us. I wasn't even close to being born yet. Then again, who was in this generation? From what the story is told first from the captain's view about what he finds, which is a man with a bunch of sled dogs, most of them dead, only like one's still alive, and takes this man and a man who he takes aboard his ship, since they are still traveling through ice-cold waters. Now, that's where, he takes the man in, helps him, gives him enough energy back where he can actually start telling his story. This is where the scientist comes in. But I don't know if you guys can hear the music. Anyway, Frankenstein tells about his life, how well how it started out. That was a good life. That sadly, though he lost his mother, he wanted to. But after he lost his mother, he wanted to learn about life and death, mainly death. And there's my parents, so I'm not gonna stop this one because I don't care. That in doing so, to find out why people can't be brought back to life, he tries to experiment. He ends up creating a monster made out of pieces of dead men who because of either embalming or just because they've been so fresh enough for a while, certain amount of freshness, are very large. Hi, I'm doing a video, so and where was I? If you don't want to be in the video, don't avoid the. Yeah, you're in the video. Really? I just think where it's filthy.
You got that stuff all over this.
Anyway, back to the point. As well as using electricity, he creates this monster. Realizing that what he did was wrong, he destroyed most of his work. As well as the monster, who he thought wasn't even alive. Now, eventually in the story, it goes to where the monster is telling a story, which is when the monster meets up again with the doctor after, which I will explain in a few minutes, killing most of the people he loved. Well, the most, I should say. From the monster's point of view, a confused, being that didn't even know what he was, wandered around once he got his way out of the lab, tries to find his place. He ends up killing a few people by accident as well as on purpose, which is where Victor comes in again. Once he actually finds Victor's journal, and after learning how to read, or using it to learn how to read, he realizes what he was. So he decides to look for Victor and exact his revenge. Now, most people would think, oh, great, another monster to deal with, or more to deal with. But in this case, it was a matter of life or death. Mostly death due to what happened next. Now, one of the accidents that the monster created, until he finds out who his victim was a young boy who, he merely just scared to death, literally. Ends up finding out that the boy is related to his creator soon after that. But not before he ends up, leaves evidence that would falsely accuse another person who ends up, being found guilty, and which was this poor woman, a housemaid. So that was another victim. Now, after finding out that his brother was killed, Victor comes straight home with his bride-to-be to comfort his father, his distraught father. His father ends up dying, either I think of old age, or I don't know what the term technically happened. Frankenstein finds out who actually really killed his brother and meets the monster again. Now the monster made it learning a little bit of knowledge. Now most people think the doctor switched his brains around with him or gave him a new brain. That's falsely true. False. In this case, the monster learned on his own. Now, even though he had defective brain, surprisingly, but it's not but nowadays it isn't surprising. Now I'm probably gonna have to do another video or two for the other two monsters because I realize that this one's gonna take a long time. The monster makes a deal saying that he is going to leave Victor alone only if he creates another creature like him as a companion, like a female. Now in the movies, they pretty much put it either as his fiancée or another woman that he scares so much that he gives her white strips of hair. And I don't know why. It made no sense. But in the original first movie, as well as the, novels, that is not true. In the first movie, yes, she did look beautiful still, but she actually was made out of female dead body parts. But for some reason, they didn't think they could be proportionally correct like they did with the first one. But in the books, she actually was just as grotesque as the original monster. But Victor sadly agrees, but right before he brings her to life, he realizes that he does not want to bring another creature of evil, not knowing if they can, not knowing any abilities that this one has, like reproducing wise. He does not want more creatures like that in the world. So he tears her limb to limb, and the monster says he will make him regret doing that. Ends up killing his bride-to-be. So Victor started running away, running from the monster, trying to at least go to where they can meet again. Which brings it back to where the Katzen first found Victor, who was pretty much almost dead. All the strength he had left was telling his whole entire story to the captain. Before he died. Now the monster finds out what happened, finding out his creators died, and says there's no room for monsters like us, meaning him and the Victor Frankenstein. Jumps into the water and pretty much kills himself, I guess. Now that was the book end, but but in the movies they did extend it to where it was like 5 different movies. Bride, and then I can't remember the rest, but then he eventually faces Dracula. Which also ties into other versions of Frankenstein, which we've seen. There's Young Frankenstein, which is what I mentioned before. There is also Van Helsing's Frankenstein, which ties a little bit well, only to a certain point, as well as multiple other versions or kinds of Frankenstein, such as I believe it was Tim Burton's Frankenweenie, which is a dog version of it, which was very sad, and I cried through most of it, but it was ended up being a good movie. Now, Mary Shelley never knew that she was creating a worldwide phenomenon. She just thought she could tell her story as, her nightmare, seeing how people would perceive it. Okay, so that's it on the Frankenstein story. That was the original novel, more or less. I know that they are planning on making another Frankenstein movie. I don't know, but sadly I do not know when it's supposed to come out. Maybe like within the next year or so. Hopefully soon. Because we need, as much as I hate to say it, we need another Frankenstein movie. So, stay tuned for my next video as soon as I figure out which monster I want to do. Look like,